All right, Jessica, it's a tough subject. I'm Dennis Gillen. You are Jessica Seel, in case you didn't know that. You're my co-host, by the way.
And I'm a girl.
And you're a girl. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that part.
Yes.
First, I want to plug this event, March 18th. I'm sweating it out. I rented a theater to do a mental health talk and suicide prevention, which nobody wants to go to anyway. But I said, I'm going to put money down. And I did. They gave me a nonprofit rate. Very nice of them. Center Stage Theater. Awesome. Downtown Greenville. And what I wanted to say about this is March 18th at 7 o'clock. And it dawned on me last night. I'm laying in bed going, freaking out about this event. I know it's going to be great because I speak all over, not because I'm there, but people want to talk about this subject because the audience is coming and they're registering. But I want to fill it up. But I also thought about this, Jessica. It's also very portable. Other cities and towns can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I picked Greenville. Why? Because I can walk to the theater. I'm lazy. But if I have to get on an airplane or go somewhere and there's a municipality or a listener out there and says, you know what, this would be great in my town, it's portable. It can go wherever it needs to go. I just need a DJ and a couple local nonprofits, which I will highlight during the talk, and then I'll sort of be the MC. So I need you to talk me down from the freak out session I'm about to have.
I can tell a little bit. You know, the thing about people like us that are able to share our story and talk about this, don't be fooled. It comes with sometimes a lot of anxiety, a lot of, fear of, am I saying the right thing? And really, it's just about being authentic. I think you're just that, Dennis. I'm not worried at all for you. I'm there. I'm there for my friend.
Well, I think that I have to set the bar low for my metrics. And if I do this event and I don't soil myself, it's a victory.
I'm not there for you in that aspect.
It's not. And this is kind of funny, just behind the scene as an older speaker, I always have to go potty before I go on. I mean, just like, it's like a thing. And one time I kind of forgot that thing and I'm on stage and people are going question and answer. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom so bad. And the magic happens after the talk. Like people, when you're vulnerable on stage, people want to talk more.
That's
and
right.
I felt so bad. They're all sitting there. It's like, listen, I'll be right back.
You know when that happened to me? It happened to me this past Sunday when I was assisting at church with, oh my gosh, my brain just went blank, communion. And I was like, oh, I should have thought about that before this. And it's those serious times where it happens. I think it's nerves. I really do.
Serious. You're administering the Eucharist. I'm up there talking about my vulnerability. The both thing on our mind is like, I should have went potty earlier.
You know what, though? That means we're human. And just like it's a tough subject, talking about that is a tough subject, especially when you start getting old and you start, So, hey, it all weaves together.
I just thought of a joke. You say, Dennis, what kind of underwear do you wear when you present? Is it boxers or briefs? And the answer is depends. It just depends.
You know, when I was marketing this podcast, I said we have a little bit of lighthearted humor. I'm sure people were like, what? You're doing a podcast on, suicide loss and there's some humor? Yes, I can find humor in about everything. We have to be able to survive, right?
Have to. Absolutely have to. If I don't laugh, I'll cry. For the new listener, I lost two brothers. Jessica lost her dad. We've been touched a million times over outside because of what we do. And we want to talk about it. That's why it's called It's a Tough Subject. And we opened up, Jessica, someone just joining us. We opened up the fact that you're a girl. And maybe word Jessica.
Indeed.
Yeah, Jessica would have gave it away. And if you're a girl who identifies as a boy, I don't care. I could barely do me. I'm not going to do you. So I'm fine with that, especially in the mental health arena. But you're a girl, and I wanted to bring up something that's bugging me a little bit. I'm wearing a bracelet, by the way. You can't see it on the podcast, but it's a yellow bracelet. And I got feedback about our podcast this week.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the bracelet represents a young girl. A father gave it to me. And this week we got feedback on the podcast from a mother who lost her daughter. And I get so focused in on guys because 80% of all suicides are dudes. But here's a little stat that we need to drive home: 3 to 4 times more attempts for females.
Doesn't surprise me being a female. We're men. I think folks think, and it's true. I have a husband and men in my life and lost my dad.
Yeah.
People think men, they don't go to the doctor. They don't ask for help. They have to be these big, strong people. And they're the ones that they kind of slide under the radar. But I think women, we do talk about it to a certain extent and tell folks. But I think we do internalize things a lot as well. And we're very emotional. And sometimes, I'll admit it, my emotions get the best of me a lot. I wear my emotions on my sleeves. I don't think that's necessarily, I think in my mind, I think it's a protective mechanism. It's not really, it's who I am. But I think that I don't want to insult women, but I'm a woman and I can say this, we're very reactive, which
That's fair.
makes me think that that doesn't really surprise me as much. You have these folks flying under the radar, but then you have it right in front of your face too, if that makes sense.
I think now that we're like a national podcast, I think we can't talk in like universal statements. So I would say, if I were you, and I'm not you, most women, use
Yeah.
qualifiers like most women are reactive. And then that gives that small introvert audience of women who really hold it in like guys do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. You're right.
Gives them a polite out because, sometimes a square peg doesn't fit in the round hole. It's hard to put us all 330 million Americans and then how many
Mhm.
billions on the planet in the little buckets. But I agree with you. And wearing your heart on your sleeves, it's actually kind of good because it lets the people around you who can see your sleeves know what you're thinking.
I don't know if I would say it's good or not.
In
I've
the suicide
often,
prevention world, it's really good because I
I
already know
mean,
what you're up
I
to.
would, I would often, people, and this has happened to me, I don't want to use the word shame because that's not the right word. They've made me feel like it's a weakness to be that way. Like, you shouldn't let people know how you feel. You should keep things to yourself. You should, and that in itself is almost destructive talk for me. Now, everything I say is my opinion. It's Jessica. We're all different to your point. There are men that wear their heart on their sleeves. I know some, but I feel like that's not always seen as a good thing.
So, for the listener out there, if you disagree with Dennis and Jessica, I think what Jessica's saying is get your own damn podcast.
Dear Lord, you're going to get a
No, no.
complaint about that next week, first,
Well,
Dennis.
that's all right. That means when they're listening, that's okay. But I get you. I get you. What I was saying about the part about the protective factor and suicide prevention, I'd like to know where you're standing in a situation where a guy just says everything's fine and you don't know where they're standing. And then they go in the woods and they don't come out. And that's the part that bothers me because guys won't emote. And I'm about to go on a weekend of guys. We're doing a thing this weekend for a friend of mine. And it's we take these guys that are in transitional housing and we take them to a church camp and we try to get them to open up. And it takes about, it's
That's
scary, but it's
scary.
cool. It's cool. The first day, it's kind of fun to watch because the first day they walk in, it's a Friday. I'm going Thursday night. Friday, they show up at the camp and they're like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do this weekend. And then I think it was last session, we had a guy almost walk out and he wanted to
Cool.
go back. Yeah, he wanted to leave. And then we talked him to staying and it became like the MVP, shared everything at the end. So you get to watch that whole process. If I were to do the same weekend, this is just me speaking, with women, we may get there earlier. For the guys, it takes them all weekend to get there. Sunday afternoon, as they're getting on the bus, they go, I want to tell you this one thing. All right, where was that Friday night? We could have helped you. So I'm excited about that. But the girl thing bugs the crap out of me, by the way. The 3 to 4 times attempts. And the bracelet I have on is a young girl, like 12.
Gosh. When I hear
Yeah.
that, it breaks my heart because it's, just a terrible situation. But if you think back to when you were 12 years old, man, you hadn't even scratched the surface of life yet. But I also know young girls at that age. Wow. I have to admit something. I've never said this. When I was young, I'm ashamed of this. And my dad was still alive. I had not had really any experience with suicide, but I used it because we were starting to talk about it and we're in middle school and early high school as a way to get out of trouble one time with my parents. Yes, I did it.
All right.
And I had no intention of that. It was sheerly my pathetic little 14-year-old mind thinking, if I tell my parents that I'm going to hurt myself if this happens, they won't do it.
They'll back off.
But that also is like, when do you know when a child is just playing a mind game or when they're serious?
That's a tough distinction for
Yeah.
anyone in any age at that point. If they threaten it, and because of what happened to me in my life with the 2 boys, I do coach people and say, well, take them all seriously. You can't go wrong.
Well, I do.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did hear one time it was an accidental suicide, they call it. This is a story that was relayed to me when I was working on the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, where it was a guy at the time, it was a husband who used to always tell his wife when something was going bad, I'm going to die by suicide, this is it. And he would get in a car and he would start it up in the garage, and I don't like to talk about methods or means, but you have to know this for the story. And the wife would run home, open the garage, whatever. So this went on a couple times. It's the boy who cried wolf. He said it a couple times and she'd always come to the rescue, and she was going to do the rescue again and got diverted. Like something happened. She had to go get a kid or something. and she never got there to open the garage.
Mm.
And that's why the coroner or the people that were doing the psychological autopsy said it was an accidental suicide. Yeah, he did it, but he also intended for this white knight to show up in the wife, which is not fair to her.
No.
No way. No way is that fair to put someone in that position. But he died, and she got home, opened the garage, and it wasn't good. That's why, getting back to your story, I get it as a 14, 12, 13, 14-year-old, full of hormones, life's changing, everything's crazy, and you pulled out that card to get out of trouble. And thank you for sharing that. But at this point in the game, I think, especially after hearing that story, we take them all serious.
Well, you're right, because I had no intention of that. I was using it, but I know that that is not, to your point, I always say I will err on the side of caution, if anyone, lots of times people will say, well, they were just looking for attention. I know you've heard it. I've heard it. Or, they've done this many, many, many times. Well, I'm going to be there for you, 70 times 7 to make sure that you're alive.
Reference, yeah.
If it's a phony, then so be it, So
be it. We just take them all seriously. Now, back to the girls. I have some thoughts on that, but sometimes when I try to do something for young girls, I look like a creeper, so I'm going to need a girl like you, Jessica, to help me out here. Like I have the Camo Hat Club for guys. I have an actual program where I meet. Tomorrow's my day, by the way. It's the first Thursday of every month. And tomorrow I meet a bunch of guys for breakfast. And at the end of the breakfast, we just check in. How's everybody's mental health?
Which I'm obsessed with the whole idea. I've been that way since you told me.
12 times a year, I get to see these guys, and they're awesome. And I'll talk about them at the show, March 18th. Some of them are coming. They bought tickets, which is nice. I want to do something for girls, but I'm going to need a girl, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, to push it forward, because I can't say, hey, I got this idea for young girls to get together. And they go, no, Jessica, I have an idea for you, and I'll tell you it later. But like something related
We
to
don't announce these things on our podcast. We'll talk about it. Of course I'll do it.
Thank you.
mean, we represent, first of all, I want to thank you for calling me a girl, because I haven't been called a girl in
young lady.
A lady, whatever. I like girl better. But, I think, I don't know. I don't feel like we do a lot of suicide programming for girls almost. Maybe I'm wrong. It's a very general, you have a lot of it by age, and then to your point, there's a lot of focus on men because, it is an issue. To my knowledge, I don't know, and I don't know everything of anything specifically for young women around this.
Well, I'll give you an example in my little world when I travel around colleges and where girls are really smart, which is basically everywhere in every category. When I do a program or there's a chapter of a mental health group like Active Minds. Active Minds is one of my favorite groups out there. They're on college campuses, the JED Foundation. If you do anything mental health related on a campus, the women show up. So 80% of all suicides are guys. If I do something on campus, 80% of the audience is women. It's crazy. They just show up.
I'm wondering, do you think and I could be wrong, do you think that they are coming because, first of all, a lot of us are in touch with our emotional side, but maybe I go to things sometimes so I can make sure I'm watching for my husband
Well, I've had that happen too.
I don't know, I don't know.
I will be speaking in an audience, and in fact, one night it was a men's only event at a church, men only, and a woman wanted to come in. I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop her.
Right.
Sit down. And she
Slippery
was there.
slope.
Yeah, she was there because of a guy. I did a fraternity thing at East Carolina University. It was just men, IFC men only. And 2 girls showed up, and one girl was there because of her brother, and the other one was there to support the girl, which is really cool. Girls do that. So they showed up, and the guy goes, what do you want me to do? I'm like, give them a seat. They're hurting. I'm not going to say, well, this is a men's only event. No. Tell them to sit down, and I'm here afterwards if they want to talk. So I've had gate crashers. I never had an all-girls event get crashed by a guy. I've done some sorority stuff, and I never had that happen.
Man, that would be a great time to meet some women, I have to say. That's a missed opportunity for these guys.
Well, I always tell these guys, I have a picture during one of my talks where there was a mental health committee that brought me into a university, and the committee was like 7 women and 1 dude. And I always show it to the dudes. I said, if you want to meet women who are in touch with their emotions, join the mental health, join Active Minds, join a club that deals with mental health. 1, you'll benefit for your own cabeza, your own head. And 2, who knows? You'll meet these fantastic women who care. So that's funny to say that, because it's literally like 7-1.
I agree. I think, I don't think programming for the different sexes is that much different. I think for women, it's this a lot of our issues lie around, and I'll have to tell you, social media has not helped whatsoever.
No.
Because,
Awful.
you always, and I'm going to be honest and transparent here, and many women may disagree with me, and man, hats off to you. I know some of you, and I have an insecurity about the way that I look, about aging, about my career. I mean, that women almost, and we've talked about this before, a side group of that is as women like myself that could not have children. There's so many emotional pulls for women that I think all of those things just kind of are maybe the backstory to, why you're seeing that. It is very hard in the world that we live in. And let me tell you, working in a field and looking to grow and be a leader in your field and being a woman is hard. I mean, there's so many things, Dennis. And I'm not going to say that I'm a feminist or I'm not or whatever. Just bottom line, I'm a female. And tough. It just doesn't, and it doesn't stop in youth. So I think we have to learn coping mechanisms because we go through seasons.
Well, the whole time you were speaking there, I kept thinking about the 3 to 4 times more attempts because of those differences. It can happen over a lifetime, but women have more attempts at suicide, and men have more completions. It speaks to some lethal means access. I don't want to talk about that crap. I don't want to give anyone ideas,
Yeah.
but the whole time you're speaking, I think, wow, that's in different phases of life, and it comes at you hard,
Yeah.
and that may explain a lot in that arena. It ain't
Yeah.
easy being a guy either, but it's
No,
we got each other.
I don't think that. It's totally different. I can't understand what you understand, and you can't understand what I understand. And I know a lot of men and have made comments about, women's hormonal changes and things. That's real. So, that can also send you into a massive spin. So you have all these things coming at you. And that's why I think women are pretty, badass, if I can say that.
You could say you
Because,
just did.
whether we birth the child or not, we deal with a lot of things, and we're those unspoken leaders sometimes, even though we may not get the credit for it.
Well, making great strides every day. I think it
Yeah.
was more women applied to med school last year than men. Has been a real flip, and part of me then on the other side I'm on the other side going, where are the dudes? Like where are the dudes? Are they withdrawing and isolating? As
Yeah.
this all goes on. So social media, you brought it up. It has an impact. Women have bullseyes on them. Forget it. Instagram, TikTok. I do know a young woman who recently deleted TikTok, and I said, "Why'd you do that?" She goes, "I spent like way too much time on there." Like she caught herself, which is hard to do because it's programmed to get inside and do a dopamine release and be addictive. It is programmed to do that, but she actually deleted it. And if she's like me, I delete Reddit like once a month, and then I add it back on and get back on it. It's horrible. Hey, but funny, I'm wearing our shirt today, and you can barely see it, but it's High Point University. And what they did one time, Jessica, you'd be interested in this. They had me speak to the women first, and then we kicked them out, and then the guys came in. They actually separated the talk. Instead of doing all of Greek life, they separated the talk and said, do the girls first and then do the guys second. And to tell you the truth, it was different. The talk, the way I went about it and what I spoke about, and I did tailor the presentation based on that demographic split. And I thought when we first started getting going with the girls, I think girls, and this is anybody could write in, call in, Dennis at halfasar.org, chew me out for this one, but I think girls will be more apt to share in front of other girls, but they may not be so apt to share in front of guys. And that's why
I would agree with that. When you said that, that's the first thing I thought. And maybe here's why. I'm going to speak from me being a young woman at one time. I would be afraid of how, so just, I was married before, and my ex-husband would say things to me like, well, you just need to take your cope dope, which was my anti-anxiety medicine. And he would tease me about it, knowing that I had a history in my family, and I was very aware, and I was ashamed of it back then. I'm not anymore. But, it made me feel like ashamed, like I was crazy. I don't like to use that word, but that's how I felt.
Yeah.
I think men, they think they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm not messing with that girl. She's got snakes in her head, or I've heard people say that. I've heard people say that about me. Oh, well, let me tell you about her history. That's not fair. I could see it going both ways.
Everybody's got a history. Everyone's got one. And then
right.
it explains the X part too, by the way. That helped.
Yes. Bye. Best thing I ever did.
Don't let the door where the good Lord split you. See
We
ya.
won't go there. Oh my gosh, I hadn't
No,
heard anybody say that in a long time. But
but that's
yeah, there's a certain vulnerability for women to say that, and men probably feel the same way in front of women.
it's funny you said that. That just go. I'm going to go back. I'm not going to harp on the X thing, but it's a toxic relationship. And I was reading this post on Reddit that said, "Formerly suicidal people of Reddit, what changed for you?" And I'm going to use this in the show. By the way, the answers were too good, but the first one that popped off was I got rid of the toxic people in my life. That's like number one. And sometimes you
Ding,
got to
ding,
say
ding, ding, ding.
bye
So easy.
bye. Yeah, you got to say bye bye. It truly is an issue of self preservation.
Well, it's like when you are in recovery from a substance, and that's the first thing they tell you, which is sometimes the hardest thing, is you've got to get rid of that environment that you were in, because at
Change your
that
people, place, and
facility,
things. Yep.
same thing, same thing.
I heard that. I was actually at a homeless shelter and I took a class. I was there doing a mental health talk, and then they said, "Hey, they're doing this class afterwards. You should go listen to this speaker. She's really good." And she was really good. But that was one of the things that stood out about, they're talking to former addicts. It was an addict class. And she said, you need to change your people, place, and things if you're going to recover. And that's weird because I used that when I went through my divorce. I was recovering from something. It wasn't an addiction, but I changed my people, place, and things and moved from one town to the next, about an hour and a half away, just to restart, reboot, refilter, start over.
You're so right. It's and people will fight you on that. They will guilt you. They will make you feel bad. Oh, it wasn't me. I'm not the problem. You're the problem. Or, they'll fight you every, step of the way. But that to me is just proof that, yeah, you didn't need to be in my life anymore.
That's it. And it's sometimes it's hard to get rid of the toxic people. It
Yeah.
just is. We all hear about the stories about domestic violence, people going back to the same person that abused them. It's brutal.
When it's really hard is when it's family.
Oh yeah. How do you get rid of family? You're genetically linked.
I mean, I have a brother who tried to die by suicide multiple times, and I had to not because of that, but because of the toxicity that he was bringing in my life, because he started weaponizing it. But I also realized that he was sick, and I know this for a fact now because once he got the proper treatment, that's never happened again. So, there's anger on both sides, I would say. So if you're a person that's struggling with things and you've upset people in your life, they may not want you in their life anymore. And those are hard situations to deal with.
That's true. It's funny you said that because I wonder, we have to cut the toxic people out of our lives. And I'm thinking like, did anybody ever cut me out of their life? Was I driving? My ex-wife did.
Yeah. I mean, I think whenever you and I were dealing with our situations, some could have said we were toxic people.
Yeah. We may be toxic to some people. You have to come to grips with that.
Yeah.
I like to think I'm an awesome dude who loves everybody, but that may not be the opinion if you go down to Columbia, South Carolina, ask this one girl, she was, hey, he's got issues, which is true. But part of my issues were, I'm going to bring it all back to suicide prevention, was that poor girl had to deal with a guy that lost two brothers to suicide. She didn't sign up for that. She knew about the one, and then when we were married, we got the other one. And I got to imagine that was not an easy task to take on.
And you're probably angry at that person for rejecting you during that time.
And then angry at myself for being rejected. I think that's the first thing I said to one of my friends when I told him about the separation/divorce. I said, I'm not an easy person to live with. He goes, dude, that's your opening statement? Yeah, that's my opening statement.
I'm not either, Dennis. So
I don't think
I'm not going to use it as an excuse, but, I think people that have dealt with things that are difficult, whether it's happened to them or it happened, indirectly to us, we can be hard to deal with sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
But we can be wonderful too.
Hurt people. And if we're hurting, and we all have, we probably lashed out at a loved one that didn't deserve it. I always use the example, like, you're in the kitchen and your kid, I remember I bumped into my son. I'm like, dude, get out of my way. Now, if I bumped into a stranger on the street, I'm like, excuse me, sir. I'd be so super polite. I am so sorry for bumping into you, but it happens. It happens. What are we going to do about girls, by the way? Coming back to that, what are we going to do about them?
I think a lot of girls, like I said, it's about their self-esteem, their worth. And, there's that's a lot to unpack for me in a 30-minute, session where we talk. I think it definitely warrants longer discussion because there's so many different facets that and to my point that I said, that relate to certain times of a woman's life that you really could dig into. And I can only speak for what I see.
Well, stay right there, Jessica. There's certain times in people's life. This is the anti-suicide message right here is it gets better as you get older. And for our young listeners out there, and especially young women who are 3 to 4 times more likely to attempt suicide, and men, as you get older, you literally don't care what people think anymore.
Oh my gosh. That is, thank you. Thank you.
Obviously, look at my hair right now. No, it's I walk out of the house, my clothes don't even match. My wife's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I gotta give a talk." She goes, "You look like a bum." I was like, "I don't care." I started dressing up for the talks, by the way, based on her recommendation, but you really don't. And that's why I tell these kids when I'm speaking to young audiences, like, stay with me. Because right now you're worried about the clicks and all that stuff and being in with the in crowd. You have to like the person you see every morning when you're brushing your teeth. That's all you have to like. And do not see
the clicks and the in crowds happen even at my age. So some of that doesn't go away. It is what you said. It's the coping. When you're young, I think, what is it, like 25 or 26, your brain is fully developed. I could be wrong. Don't put me on that. I'm not a scientist. So, you aren't able to understand. I would venture to say, and by the way, if you've experienced a trauma, it affects that, so
you've been changed.
It almost stops you at that point. So I would venture to say that I haven't fully grown up and realized the things that you're talking about. I'm 51, probably mid-50s, I started changing a lot. And some of that was I had finally reached the healing sweet spot and understanding that I had value. That's a big thing for women. I'm telling you, I can't stress that enough.
Well, as you get older, and I'm a little older than you, 61, I know. I look 59. Thank you. But as you get older, I'm like 2 weeks away from farting out loud in public because I don't care.
That will never happen. Thank you.
2 weeks away. Give me 2, maybe during the show on March 18th. I'm just going to come out and let one rip. I'm that close to like really not caring, but I do care. Like I'm not apathetic. Like I do care. Like I go, oh, you don't care what people. I do, but I want the guy in the mirror brushing my teeth and God that those two have to line up. Say, all right, God, am I doing the right thing? Dennis, are you doing the right thing? Let's go. And then I'll fine. And of course, I have a wife. Her opinion matters mucho. That's Spanish for mucho, a lot. That I do want her opinion to be favorable. I don't want to go through another divorce. Done.
Well, my husband is 64, and he told me that when I met him when I was in my 30s. He's like, one day you will not care what people think, because I was just I was still struggling, not gonna lie. And he did say that, and I told him recently, I was like, man, I am feeling that. And if people are scared about turning 50, 50 is amazing, ladies. Embrace it, love it, feel good about yourself. Young people, don't be scared of it. It's amazing.
Well, there's like a paradox here because I got older, 2 traumas, the boys, my brothers, Mark and Matt, and I'd like to stay on this podcast. Say, I don't care what people think, but why are older men more likely to die by suicide? Now I'm on the other side of the coin, the 80%, 3 to 4 times.
I mean, you're a man. You tell me.
I think it always comes back to purpose and hope. You get to a certain age, like, none of this was worth it. I sold insurance my whole life and the kids are grown and my wife hates me and I can't do anything right. I'm out of here. I think if that same person said, well, I have some spare time. I'm going to go to the homeless shelter and feed people. You have a purpose. If you're a guy and you're on the struggle bus, because I'm coming back to you guys now, find somewhere to volunteer because you can get everything you want in life if you help others get what they want. And
I don't think that's different from women.
Purpose for anyone. No, that's, have a purpose.
Yeah. Huge.
I'm going to see a woman this weekend. She's been retired for like ever. And she's probably involved like in 8 different charities. I'm going away this weekend to do a men's thing for folks in transitional housing. We bring them to like a church camp and we just love on them for the weekend. I always go, I go as a volunteer and I come back a changed man every time. This is like my 4th one. And a buddy of mine runs it out of Columbia and it's awesome. It's called Weekend of Hope. We just give hope to people and try to infuse it. And I do a talk on mental health with these guys. And I get 10 times out of the weekend than they do, more, because we have a purpose. Like I know tomorrow night when I get in the car, I'm like, all right, I got to deliver the best speech of my life to these guys, to some of these people on the edge. And I have that distinct purpose of going down there. But back to this woman, she runs the show. My buddy is the organizer per se, but behind every good organizer, there's like one woman running the whole show. She runs the whole show. She runs the whole thing. She gets everything out, the emails out, and she recruits. She does it all. But she's involved seriously about 8 or 9 different charities, and it keeps her going.
I mean, I will even say if I take a long, say Christmas, I have 2 weeks off. I'm thankful for it. But man, if I don't have a routine and a purpose, I mean, it's fun for the first couple days to not have anything to do, and then I get anxious, and then I feel like I'm missing something. I'm not doing something, and I can only imagine, when people lose their jobs, which is, a very difficult time, very scary time for people. My husband lost his job. My husband never had any issues with mental health that I knew of, and man, he struggled more than a woman almost, I would say. Would.
Well, we tie a lot of our self-worth to what we do. And I have lost a job. I got walked out the door one time in a pharmaceutical company. I thought I was having a good year. I thought I was going on the trip, and like, oh, we're done. It rocked my world. And I learned from that, like, don't identify with that, because corporations can change, they change on a dime. Today you're hot, tomorrow you're not. Do not assign your value, your worth as a human being to that occupation, because that occupation can go bye-bye.
And that's scary.
Back to
And
God
you're
and
right.
the guy in the mirror. Yeah, like that person. You're right. It happens. Heck, those poor federal employees right now, everyone's making a big deal about this Doge and all this stuff, that what's going on in DC. Those people, their mental health is getting rocked right now. They worked for these organizations for years. I get cutting in government spending, but boy, can you do it with a little more compassion than what we're doing it with?
I agree. People forget there's human beings just like us.
These
That
people
work,
getting emails.
those jobs. I mean, I don't want to get political, because I agree. I do see waste. I see things that are egregious, but I also see people that, like me, that pay, have a mortgage and have children, and have to put food on the table, and are scared and have worked this way their whole lives. And, the public sector, or the private sector, I've worked in both. They're vastly different. It is a complete change for somebody to have to get out of one situation and work in a totally different situation. That's traumatic as well.
Yeah, compassion doesn't have to be political. You just be a decent human being. Man, if you're on the other end of that email, what
I'm
would
in
you do?
DC right now. Come on.
Oh, that's right. Be careful. You're about to get dozed. I hope not.
Nah,
You're good. All right.
I don't know. You never know. I shouldn't have said nah so fast. I don't know.
That's right. Always leave a caveat. Remember we talked about universal statements?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It can happen. Don't assign
It could
yourself to
happen
that.
anytime. It could happen for, hey, I mean, the thing about our work that I do is for a nonprofit, which is grant funded, which is usually federal grant funding, which is unfortunate. We can go on this for another time about, our investment in this type of care in our country. And really what we need to also think about doing is building constituents on both sides of the aisle that can speak to the importance of this, because I feel like it's sometimes seen as not a real science, and there's so much misunderstanding and stigma around this type of work. It's
Well, we went around the gamut today. I think we solved all the world's problems today.
I don't know, but man, we gave some good fodder for folks to talk about and listen
We
to.
may have created some more problems. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but still, I'm going to start where we ended up. Not with the March 18th event. I'm already stressing about that, but
Stop. We got the depends. We're going to hold your hand. You're going to be great.
Exactly. You'll take over if I have to go potty. I got that going for me. But I want to start where we started. March 18th, Greenville. And I also want to talk about the girls. 3 to 4 times more attempts. If I could give one piece of wisdom to the young ladies out there, it does get better. It does.
Yes. And you are awesome. You have more power than you know you have, and you'll figure that out as you get a little bit older. And you know what? Something I've realized at 50, and I want to tell this to young women: reach for the stars, go for the gusto, don't hold back. I did. I'm trying to change that at 50 years old. Get a head start.
I just got super bummed out because you said you are awesome, and I thank you, but you were talking to the young ladies. And it's you're okay. The women are awesome. And let's end the podcast there. This, folks, is another episode of It's a Tough Subject. You know why? Because it is. It's just a tough subject. And you got to be able, like Jessica's doing now, we're at the point in our lives, if we don't laugh, we will cry. And I like laughing a lot better.
Me too.
So there you go. Another episode in the can. Please stay in touch, halfasorrow.org. If you're in the Greenville market, March 18th, it's a Tuesday night, and from 7 to 8 o'clock, roughly 8:30ish. Then we go next door to Limoncello's, a restaurant, for a debrief, because that's where the magic happens after the talk. And if you want me to come to a town near you, say the word, dennis@halfasorrow.org. If you want my email, I will do it for you. Jessica, it's a pleasure. Have safe travels back wherever you are.
Thank you.
DC. Say hello to the Donald for me, and
Oh, yeah. Not staying anywhere near there, but I will.
get home. Get home safely. Jessica, get home safely, and everybody else out there in podcast land. Thanks for listening to It's a Tough Subject. We appreciate you.